Hello, everyone. Dr. Guillaume Dulude here. I'm really happy to do this first interview live on our channel. And the goal is to talk about decision, to talk about meaning, to talk about psychology, to talk about difficult choices. Me and my team were thinking about inspiring people to think about these choices and inspiring people to keep hope, be inspired to be courageous, to be more courageous, and also to have the tools to take decisions and to switch their narrative and to move on with their lives when it's difficult. So the reality is that life is not easy. So some people have it easier than others. That's life itself. There are lots of things that we can control, but there's a lot of things that we actually can control. So we're going to focus about what we can control and to remind ourselves that we need to focus on what we can control. I decided to invite people that inspire me. And today I have the great pleasure to talk with Nick Drossos. So in a few seconds, he's going to join me on the scene. But before Nick Drossos, I'm just going to introduce a couple of things that he does because this guy is very impressive. First, he's a self-defense expert. He's been in the self-defense business teaching for over 20 years, all kinds of approach, MMA, Krav Maga, Taekwondo, Kung Fu. And he's created his own mix on how to teach self-defense, which is quite unique. And he calls it self-defense in reality, in real life, because what you see on YouTube and videos, like, there are all kinds of martial arts that actually never going to work in real life. So he focused on creating something that actually will work. He's a personal trainer. He's built the podcast, the balls to talk about it, which is related to men's health, with talking about doctors, about sexual subjects, taboo subjects for men's health, which is often a taboo because men don't express themselves as much. So he opened the way in this direction. So self-defense. He's a trainer. Have the balls to talk about it, about men's health. He's also producing motivational videos, and now, like it was not enough, he started acting. And so is he's like a guy of multiple lives, and this is really the core of the message that I want to portray here, is that you have different chapters in your life. And so he's got more than 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it keeps growing and growing. So he's been in the business for a long time. He's a very perseverant guy. He has a lot of determination. He has a lot of passion. And the goal today is to explore another side of what you will not see on social media. And this is what I think is important, is that when you look at people succeeding, you see one aspect and one angle of their personality, but there's other things that you can't show, that is not really talked about. And this is what I want to focus on, because you guys are living in your daily life and you don't have all the spotlights on you. And when you're alone in your bed, in your room, you think alone in your head. So what do you do? What do you think about? And so without any more time for this introduction, let's welcome Nick Drossos. Hello, Nick.
Dr. Guillaume, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you, like, to do this interview with me. And I have to take just a minute because I remember the first time I saw you. You're one of the most impressive people I saw. You came here for self-defense course. You had your bow and arrow. And I remember seeing you for the first time and saying, this guy is one of the most fascinating people that I've ever met. So I just had to say that. And you just continue to do so. So it's an honor. Thank you so much
Well,
for interviewing me.
Well, thanks for the compliment. I also remember the first time we met, I was in preparation with the bows and arrows. I was in preparation for a TV show where I was going in tribal places, remote areas, and was like, maybe a couple of self-defense reflex could be good, and we worked on that. So, and everything went well. So, and a lot of things that you're teaching actually is psychology. Like when I look at your video, and we're gonna come back to you right now, but when I look at your video, you often talk about seeing things coming before they happen. So it's most of your video, you always show like this. You see the first sign, this is coming. So if you don't see the first sign, you cannot react. So lots of self defense is basically awareness, psychology, looking at the right cues, positioning yourself. There's a lot of psychological prevention on awareness and the way you teach. So I think I used it myself, so I'm fine. So thanks to you, and thanks for being here today, man.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Looking forward to for this
Thank you.
conversation. So let's talk about where you're from. Let's talk about where you're born, where you grew up. People can look up on social media, on what you're doing. But I'd like to know a little bit more about where you grew up, where you're coming from. So maybe you can just draw us a portrait of where you're from.
So my parents are both originally from Greece.
Yeah.
They moved each separately here, and it was kind of like an arranged marriage when
Okay.
they met. And then I was born and raised in Park Extension,
Hmm.
so by immigrant parents. So life was automatically a little bit harder. Both my parents, until my dad passed away, didn't speak any French. My mom still doesn't speak any French or English. So from a young age, we grew up having to, we spoke Greek at home and French and English, and life was, the life of two immigrant parents who always worked,
Yeah.
and we're never homes from a young age. We had the key around our neck at 8 years old, open the door, make our food, and watch
Yeah.
TV and wait for my sister. So it was fairly a very independent life from a young age. We grew up really quick,
Yeah.
and we had to figure out how to kind of survive with whatever we had from a young age.
Okay.
Um, and that's really
What?
the foundation of it, when I like the very early ages.
So what were your parents doing as a job? What were they doing?
So my mom worked in a factory,
Okay.
like sewing clothes. My dad was a janitor.
Okay.
um, they spent most of their life being miserable and unhappy in their profession.
Okay.
Even in their marriage, I think they learned to love each other. It wasn't love. It wasn't like they didn't come together through love. They learned how to love each other, and they more accepted each other.
Yeah.
Um, so that was also many parts of dynamics that I learned as well, being, you know, being raised in that environment, in that home.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And what kind of kid were you? What was your personality like? What did you like? What kind of temperament you had? How was it at school?
So school was really hard. I had learning disabilities. I had dyslexia, ADD, ADHD,
So
hyperactive. It also
really?
didn't help that I, I grew up in a very unstable home. It was
Yeah.
not I didn't grow up in a safe home. I was in a constant fight or flight in my house, and as well when I left the house, right? So when growing up in Park X, at that time, there was a lot of like theft and, violence. And it was, you had to fight to survive, right? So I think growing up, I was in a constant fight or flight, going to the house, leaving my house. And I thought that also made it harder for me to get through school, because I couldn't focus. I had the learning disabilities, dyslexia. And back then I only figured that out much later. Those years in school, it's not something they focused on so much. So at 16, I dropped out of high school. And I never used to share this with people. It's only maybe the last couple of years that I actually open up to people and say this, because it was always looked upon like as if, I always felt maybe I was stupid, I wasn't smart, I wasn't good enough, I couldn't finish high school. Looking back at it just now, almost at 50 years old, I can put all of that in context and say to myself, okay, a lot of this stuff makes sense why I couldn't finish high school, why I had these, les troubles de comportement, why I was told by teachers that I was stupid and I wasn't smart. I remember dropping out of high school and the teacher telling me, I'd be very surprised if you amount to anything. So I I had, when I look at my life today, and I talk to people and they sometimes give me reasons why they can't do something. I always say, look, every excuse you're going to give me, I've lived it. All the odds were stacked against me to ever make anything of myself. And if I had to bet on me making, I would have bet against me. So that's a little quick, um,
Mm.
a quick timeline
Yeah.
from, to like 16, 17, of what my
Okay.
life was like.
So okay, so let's talk about that. You say you didn't have like the odds were against you. You didn't have
Yeah.
like favorable factors. Okay, because we know that there are some favorable factors when when you grow up, and you cannot choose them. It's like the cards fall this way. You need to deal with these cards. So could you? Because you talked about like ADHD, you talked about the tension, hyperactivity, and you were mentioning about the fight or flight reflex, like you were never safe anywhere. What do you mean never safe anywhere? What happened
Meaning,
exactly?
like, meaning that when I was when I grew up, I was a small kid. I was skinny. I was very vulnerable and easy to be attacked, which later on explains why I got into self defense. I got into martial arts. So I was in a constant, like we had to kind of fight to survive where I grew up. Plus, even when I went to high school, and I went to a pretty rough high school where I was always around violence, right? And in home, without getting too much into details, my mom was today. When you're 8 or 10 or 15, you don't understand mental issues. So my mom was probably, and I believe, borderline manic depressive,
Yeah.
verbally, psychologically, like abusive and physical to times. And my dad as well was not. Um, he gave us the love that he knew and he could with his level and capacity. But
Hmm.
I always say, like, my life was a vacation comparing to theirs.
Okay.
So that always created a state where I was always, I was constantly ready to fight or run, or as well, that also created a child in me that was very self destructive. I was extremely self destructive. And later on in my teens, I, in order to escape some of the trauma, I would drink. I would drink and pass out. I would
Yeah.
literally drink to the point where I'd pass out. I was never a troublemaker. I never looked to fight. I was always like, I think at my core, I was always a kind person, but I would never shy away from, getting into fight if somebody got into my face. So when looking back to it, I look back at my childhood. I'm like, man, I almost feel sorry for me who went through that. But I can look at, as you get older, like at 50, all the gratitude and everything I learned, and it's much of who I became because of that. But when you're young, you don't see it. You only figure it out
Mm.
much later in time.
So would you say that you didn't have much support or many role models growing up? Not much like adult support. You were pretty much fighting all the time, or preparing to be beaten or to have some kind of a bad consequence. You were on alert.
A constant alert. Like I didn't get much support. I was, kind of on my own, and not much support. Even, I could look at my mom, who was not well, and your mother's supposed to make you feel safe. I
Yeah.
never felt that. I've
Really.
I've never felt that.
Okay.
And my father, I know he loved me, but his childhood was so full of trauma that he didn't know how to give love either. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
thank God I had my sister that I love to death, and much of our survival as children depended on us being really close together. Until this day, like, I spoke to her an hour ago. Like, we're, every day I speak to her, and we've been the shoulders to lean on, all our lives. So I was blessed with that, which also
Yeah.
brought us closer together.
Okay, so it's a whole we could talk about
Yeah.
your childhood and all that for hours, and so many things. But if you are okay with that, let's talk about what happened at 17 to 20. What happens during
Oh.
the early adult life? You're grown up, start to be a man now. You cannot say that you're a teenager. You cannot say that you're going to school. You're like, what's the beginning of the young adult life for you?
Destructive.
Really?
It was, I mean, I had so much anger and rage. I was angry and I would curse that I didn't have the parents that I wish I had, that I didn't have the opportunity, the money, other kids, that the school system like failed me. I blamed everybody.
Yeah,
And the anger inside me, I just, I started drinking, gambling. I never did anything illegal. I was always like, I never hurt anybody,
yeah,
but I just hurt myself. And then I started getting into martial arts and fighting, and I started fighting like in the ring and sparring and boxing, kickboxing. There was a way for me to, you know, hurt or be hurt was a way to express my anger and my rage. And I was very, very self destructive. And I look back at times and I think so many times I could have died with stupid shit that I did. Drive drunk and get drunk and pass out and get into a bar fight and just completely crazy stuff that I say to myself, something's out there. Definitely was looking over me because I could have went really, really bad. And sadly, it only got worse with time.
so yeah, how can you how long was this phase of self-destruction? You were fueled by anger that was going partly into martial arts, partly to self-destruction behavior. But what happened during this phase, and how long did it last? How did it end? What's this phase?
I started getting into like the martial arts, which was, I loved the discipline. The training was the thing that kept me the most kind of aligned.
Yeah,
And then I started like working in clubs. I mean, I
yeah,
was working two jobs. I was working as a busboy. I was working as, and then I started working in clubs. I'm like, okay, well, I'm teaching martial arts. I might as well, you know, learn how to fight for real. And I started working in clubs and bars, and it was the easiest, quickest money I could make. And I could also during the week train and work 3 4 days a week and make what I would make for a week. And um, it's still, I always say nightlife is to me, uh, it's a component of alcohol, drugs,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, women, a lot of, there's, I don't want to say, because there's good people who go to party and go to clubs,
yeah,
but it also attracts a lot of more of the,
of course.
I don't want to say I don't like using that word, but also people who, that nightlife also brings out a sort of type of people,
Yeah,
and then you're around that, right? So it was like the whole, that whole time in my life, when I look back at it, was, again, I look back and I say there's so many things could have went wrong, and then just being in the nightlife and working and drinking and partying and everything that came with it was very destructive. You know what I mean? Because I really felt like I had nothing to live for. Literally,
mhm,
I said to myself, I have nothing to live for. I have no education. I don't see a future. It was like, I felt like this is the most I'm going to do in my life.
yeah,
Like, what else am I
yeah,
going to do?
yeah.
So it was a very sad and depressing moment. Even though I looked like a tough guy and I looked happy inside, when I went to bed, I was miserable.
And did you have relationships at that time? Were you, interested into building relationships, or you were not able to do that? How was that, like, socially speaking, for you at this
Socially,
time?
it's funny because a lot of things I learned in that part of my life is like, you have like friends, but they're like, the friends that you have, you think they're real friends, but they're not. They're party friends. Let's go out, let's
Yeah,
drink, let's party, girls, travel.
Yeah.
But when shit hits the fan, they're not there. They're just they're there for the good moments and the time and to party, but
Yeah.
they're not a real friend that you could actually lean into,
Yeah.
lean onto and talk to when you need them. Thank God today I have these type of friends. But and in terms of girlfriends, you know what I mean? It's your what is the nightlife? Girlfriends here, you break up, you get another girlfriend. It was nothing. I didn't know yet the value of what it is to actually be with a partner. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
my life, I didn't want to get attached to anything or anybody either, because I was like, I kind of was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. And I already was in my head thinking, okay, am I going to make it 30, 40? Man, chances are probably I'm not. If I had to bet against,
Hmm.
if I had to bet how long would I be here and the chances of my life becoming better, I'd probably say slim to none.
Were you thinking about dying?
Um, yeah, it was at one point in my life I was like, you know what, like, it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, and as I was getting older, it was getting even more depressing. Being 26, 27, working at a club as a bouncer, you're like, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
is this gonna be my life? Like, it's fine
Yeah.
when you're 20, but 30, 40, 50, it was. And the worst part is when you don't see anything, you don't have a plan, you don't see any kind of hope for the future, it becomes hard.
Well, it's like we've been talking for like 20 minutes or so, and what you have told us is the story of someone suffering with very very small support, um, and lots of pain to manage, like a difficulty to project yourself into the future, like surviving. You said it a couple of times. Surviving is what you've described right now, up to 26, 27 years old. So what happened? What did you do to go to the other phase of your life? What's the trigger point of the next chapter after that?
So I believe it was around 26 or 27 when it was the first time I really thought of taking my life. And I remember I was on, I drank like a bottle of Jack Daniels, and it was the first time I was actually thinking about, like, what's the point of it all?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had hit rock bottom. Um, I had made money, like, I believe it or not, when I was like 24, 25, I invested in the stock market. I made like 250 grand at 20 something, and I lost it all. But when I made it, I went and I spent, and I thought, that's it. I made it.
Yeah.
Like
You're
but it was
safe.
like,
You're fine.
and it just dropped. I never knew that you could make money and lose money.
Yeah.
And that was a hard moment in my life at the same time, where I had a couple of transitions that I had, like, really highs, lows, like a roller coaster. And that's been a lot of my life.
Mhm.
And there was a moment where I thought, you know what, when I lost everything, I'm going back to work at the club, um, kind of skipped that part of my life where I stopped when I made my money. Then I went back to work at the club. And then I was like back here. And then I said, like, I realized that my life, I took at one point I realized that I, I was creating chaos around my life. And
Mhm.
I dated one girl for a few years who was probably one of the nicest girls I dated. And she's like, you create chaos everywhere you go. You're like a tornado. You destroy everything. What are you doing? Like, I was so self-destructive when she brought it to me. So I decided one day, you know what? I'm going to go see a therapist. And
Really?
at 27, or was it 26 or 27, I went to see a therapist, Pauline Ull, and I walked into her office. And I was a mess. And I'm like, my life's a mess. Everything I'm doing, nothing is working. I'm like a tornado. Whatever comes in my way, I'm destroying it. And I need help. because I feel like I just can't keep going like this. And at the same time, I had just met my ex-wife within a couple of months. And I was saying to myself, I don't want to destroy another person. I don't want to destroy my family. Like, you know what I mean? I wanted to be stable for once in my life. I go, Nick, you're going to be stable for once in your life. You're not going to screw shit up. You're not going to do it. I looked in the mirror and I yelled at myself, you're not going to screw it up, Nick. This time you're going to do it right. And I took that decision where I'm like, okay, everything I've done so far hasn't worked. What do I need to do to change? And I just started working with her and being honest with her and being honest with myself.
Okay, couple of things. Okay, and tell me if I get it right. Because there's some important key points that I want to highlight here that a lot of people go through, but we don't point it precisely. So you just mentioned it quickly. You said I was escaping from the bouncer life, and I was coming back to it. I was going away. I was coming back to it. Right? Did you say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the things reappearing in our lives, like they call patterns,
Yeah.
and so patterns they reinforce themselves, and you don't know exactly where it's gonna go, but you surprise yourself ending up at the same place as before, but it was not really conscious that this is where you be, but you're still there today. You're still at a point that it's not really what I wanted to go. I wanted to go away, but something is stronger than me. I come back. So, so this is really important because a lot of people are perpetuating some patterns, and they relive the same things, and time goes by. And you said it yourself. And I want to highlight that. You say the more you go in age, if you don't know how to manage that, it will add pressure because you say I'm a bouncer at 19 years old, 20 years old, it's fine. But when you're at 27 and you have no backup plan, it starts to be scary. It's
Yeah.
different. And so there's a kind of a the thing with age, it's important. Age is important. You don't live eternally, and you need to use your time well. And this is a big taboo, right? Because especially now, it's social media. It's like, oh, you just wish that something happens. You go into this bubble of feeling good, but actually time is running out, and time is actually a crusher. Another thing is that, and how did your okay? You said tell me if I'm right. You said that you were looking at the mirror and you said to yourself, like, this time, don't fuck it up. Like, do I understand that this time you were more afraid to break something and do damage? And you
Yeah.
got so afraid of this that it scared you so much that you seeked for help because you were scared of the damage you could do to your new girlfriend or this new relationship. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I looked in the mirror and I knew that my patterns were like destruction. And I
Yeah.
said to myself, I commanded myself, you're not going to screw this up. You're going to make it work. You're not going to destroy something else again. I'm telling you, Nick, don't do it. I'm going to be like, it's as if I was talking to him. And I still do that sometimes, but now in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were kind of you became the father for an instant. It's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
enough. That's enough now. Now we grow up. And and so you started seeing a therapist, and what happened while seeing her? Like what was the process? What changed? Was it long? Was it fun? Some people don't trust therapists, some people do. Some How was it for you, this experience?
So she had a very good approach like that worked for me because she was a therapist, but she was also like a coach, a mentor. She forced me to do work. She forced me to read books. She forced me to do homework. And she also told me, look, I don't want to see you. Like you come and you see me when you need something. She goes, I don't want you to be a crutch. So throughout the 20 years until 3 years ago, when I like last year I saw her once and I said, I just wanted to come say hi. She goes, how's everyone? Good. I just wanted to come see you. Right. So it's like all the work is done. Right. So
Yeah.
she was a mentor. She was a coach. She always didn't want me to be a crutch. So she let me free. And throughout my
Right.
life, I would see her 3 months. I wouldn't see her for 6 months. Then I would see her for 2 months. Then I wouldn't see her for a year. Then I would see her for 6 months. So every time I was like, I can't figure this out. Every time I caught myself doing something that I would try to figure out on my own. And when I couldn't figure out, okay, why am I keep repeating this? What I'm afraid of? Then I would go see her and be like, okay, I have this problem. I can't figure it out. I kind of figure out my own algorithm, and I kind of
Yeah.
figured out how to manage myself. But in
Yeah.
moments where I feel like, okay, the button's not working, maybe I need an outside help. Maybe there's something I
Yeah.
can't see. So she was there for me. But I mean, at the end, and I say this to people who go to therapy because I know a lot of people who've tried it. I'm like, look, if you don't put in the work, it doesn't matter how good your therapist is. If you're not
Yeah.
willing to change and do the work that is necessary that you have to, then you're just throwing your money. And if you're going there to be validated your feelings and want to be told you're right, you're throwing your money. You got to be ready to hear stuff you don't want to hear, and you got to really want change. You got to be fed up of living that way. And that's what happened to me. I was fed up. I was like, okay, we got to break down Nick, and we got to rewire and reprogram him from head to toe, or else I'm going to live a very long, miserable life. And I'm going to blame everybody else but me. Because at the end, it's my life, it's my choices. I make them. I'm the writer, I'm the director, I'm the producer of this movie. So I tell people you need to do that.
So this is what you told yourself at 26, 27.
Yeah.
You were saying these kind of things like I must do something, I must do the work. You were aware of that.
I was aware. I was aware because obviously the formula didn't work. My formula didn't work. And I said to myself, Nick, like you're either going to be a 50-year-old bouncer working at a club, right? And at that time, I got to work at the hospital. I was working as a janitor at the hospital, which was a safe, secure 7 to 3:30
Yeah.
job with a steady pay.
Yeah.
But I was miserable there too because I was like, and I'm not saying it's bad to wash toilets or to be a janitor, but I
Yeah.
was miserable there too because at the end, I still didn't do anything that I actually loved. I was just putting a paycheck. And I felt like I was surviving again.
So you mentioned something like you need to do the work, otherwise no therapist can do anything. At that time, what work are you talking about concretely? You said, okay, I want to do something, so I want to do the work. What is the work? What kind of work are you talking about?
So the work was, example, if I had to read a book and I'm dyslexic, it would take me double, triple the time to read the book. And I had to highlight everything that was like, okay, let me read this again 5 times. I had to start being conscious, aware as, okay, what am I doing? Am I snapping? Am I being angry? Am I being impatient? Am I being aggressive? Everything. And every time I would catch myself doing something, okay, let's stop, breathe, Nick, assess the situation, and then move forward. I started being more conscious of aware of everything that was around me, the people that were around me. And a lot of it actually changed my life, drastically and dramatically changed uh, when my son was born. Because now I'm like, okay, I don't want to give my son the same life I had. And that was the biggest chapter that I was like, do you want to be a parent like your parents, or do you want to be different, Nick? And I and I
Exactly.
and I and I said this explicit to my parents. I said, I will everything you guys do, I will do the opposite. I will never use my hard life as an excuse to do the same for my son. And the metric was easy. Whatever they did, just do the opposite.
So at
And
what
that was,
age did you have your
yeah.
son?
I was 30 years old when I had him.
30 years old.
30,
So
30,
that was a
31, 32. Yeah.
major
Major.
trigger to get your stuff together.
It was, and this was when my son was born, I was working at the hospital. I was making, $16 an hour, $400 a week. Financially, I was just getting by. I
Yeah.
realized that I had so much trauma that I never dealt with, that I married someone that I married someone out of desperation to get married.
Yeah.
someone to be like, okay, let me just, maybe if I get married, have a kid, maybe this is what I need. And then I got myself into a relationship where I realized, you know, I wasn't happy in this
Hmm.
relationship. And then I had
Yeah.
to question, well, is it me? Am I screwing up again? Or is it the relationship?
Yeah.
And then I have my son. I'm like, okay, I don't want to damage my son. I got to be a good
Hmm.
father. I don't have a father figure. So what do I look at? Who do I know around me who are good fathers? What can I learn from them? And what did my father do that I wish I would have got? Just do that, Nick. And that's what I did with my son. And that's when I decided too to leave the hospital and start my own business. So imagine my son is born. He's 1 years old, 1.5. I leave my job and I start a business. A year later, I get divorced. I lose half of everything, whatever little I built. I was living in my gym for 3 years, fought for my son to have him extra weekends. I was sitting in the lawyer's office crying as I was paying her. And I was telling her, can you give me a shot of vodka with that? And I was coming here and I was sleeping on a sofa bed. And I remember thinking, Nick, you screwed up again. You're such an idiot. You're such a loser. You screwed up again. How? Why? And I questioned my whole purpose, like I was a loser. You know, my mom used to tell me I was a loser. I was good for nothing. I would never amount to anything. And I was like, she's right. Again, I'm divorced, living in my gym, and my son on a sofa bed. I have my son on the weekends. I just started my business. I'm already now getting in debt. I was like, how am I going to get out of this mess? How? And I remember this was one of the hardest moments in my life. And I started again. I would start sometimes. I didn't drink nowhere like when I was young, but there was moments where I was like, there was so much pain where I would just drink.
Yeah.
I remember one time for 2, 3 days, I just drank. I canceled all my clients. I was like, screw this. And I was building my business.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to ask me, and this is people have asked me, then what brought you up? And I remember saying to myself, and I went back to the mirror. I said, Nick, you screwed up. But if you don't get your shit together, things are going to get worse. You managed to keep your house, but you're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your son. You're going to lose your business. Shut up. Shut the F up. Show up. And you're going to figure this shit out like you've always done. And I remember that day clearly. I almost smashed the mirror because I was so mad. And in that moment, again, I took the decision to be like, you know what? And part of it, again, was fueled, and maybe it's wrong, by my ex wife who blamed me for everything. And I was like, no, I'm going to make my business work. I'm going to be the best fucking father I could be. I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to show everybody that I'm not a loser and I could do it. And then I just went to tunnel vision and hyper focus. And I just gave it everything I had. And I told myself, no more excuses. No more excuses, Nick. Or else I'm going to slap you. You cannot fail and lose more than this. I will not allow you. And I talked to myself like that because I
So,
knew no matter how bad my life was, if I don't get my shit together, it was going to get way worse and I couldn't afford it.
so again, you kind of you reached the rock bottom and you picked yourself up. It's it's just like, Nick, it's not everybody that can do that. It's not everybody that can do that. I personally wish that everybody could, when they reach the bottom, look at themselves and say, hey, pick yourself up, do something. But there's a lot of people that will keep, going down
Can,
So I think
can
it's,
I
yeah,
can I tell say something? Just sorry to cut you off, and
absolutely.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Much of that today, I'm grateful for my childhood. Much of that resilience came from having that childhood. That grit, the perseverance came from being a little kid and having to survive. A little kid opening the fridge and being like, okay, what are we gonna eat today? I don't know. What's in there? Okay, a piece of bread, a salami, clack, clack, whatever's there. You know. So that
Mm,
grit and that perseverance was built as a kid through trauma.
mm,
And
mm,
today I can look back and say, you know, I'm grateful for it because it made me
mm,
and it
mm,
taught me very valuable lessons. And today I know kids, men my age, who grew up with parents who gave them all the love, money, whatever they want, and they're depressed. And sometimes they look at me and they're like, how are you happy when, yeah, I was raised with everything? And I go, maybe you had too much, too easy, too fast, too much of an easy life. And that's the balance that I try to teach my son. I go, I don't want you to have the life I had. I don't. Trust me, I
mm,
don't want you to have it. But I also don't want you to give you the life that you have everything too easy. I want to find that balance, l'équilibre, with
mm,
him, you know. And if you've seen
mm,
videos, me and my son were like this.
mm.
We are
Yeah,
so close.
yeah, yeah. Um, we're gonna come back to, I would say that the big question is the balance. Okay, the balance with kids between, like, it's basically how to be a good parent or how to be a good person, how hard you need to be with your children, and how supportive you need to be. Where's this line? Well, it's not clear. Nobody really knows where is this line exactly, because there are all kinds of factor involved. The environment, if the environment is harsh, you need tougher kids. So you need to make them tough, and especially right now, it looks really soft because it looks very comfortable and easy. But psychologically, it's not easy.
Yeah.
People are not doing well, psychologically speaking. Like, otherwise, I wouldn't have any work. If everybody was, happy and have a meaningful life and know how to use their own brain, I wouldn't work. Well, I'm working a lot because it's really tough to get your mind and your stuff together when you have so many comfort zone and so many options and so many easy way of distracting yourself, such as social media. You have your phone all the time. It's really easy to escape reality. And I want to come back to you because you teach self-defense. Self-defense is not on virtual world. You teach self-defense in the physical body. So what's the story of your business, you becoming this teacher of self-defense? How did it grow up? How did you manage this business?
So my passion was always that. Like again, because I was in that environment constantly, and then I worked in the clubs, and then I did more martial arts. It's what I loved the most.
Yeah,
Fitness is what keeps me the most uh, clear, grounded.
yeah,
Uh, whether it's self defense, whether it's strength training,
yeah,
it's what aligns me the best. It's what I go back. Had I not had it, I would be 10 times more destructive.
yeah,
And today, thank God, my energy has all changed. So it's more positive. Like the training, everything is rooted with being healthy and feeling well and being well. It's not rooted by rage, anger,
yeah,
or
yeah,
any of that.
yeah,
Uh, so as I got older, I realized, okay, well, I love teaching self defense. I love staying in shape,
yeah,
and I decided to, open my own business and say, you know what, let me do what do I love the most? Nick, what are you good at? I love teaching self defense. I love training. I've been doing this since I was a kid.
mhm,
Well, how do I turn this into a career? How can I make this my full-time job? And it was never about how much money am I going to make. As a trainer,
yeah,
you're only limited to how much money you can make. But
yeah,
it's what I wanted to wake up every day. Until today, I wake up every single day and I put my feet on the ground. I'm like, today's going to be a great day. I'm happy. I go on vacation, I come back, I'm happy to come back to work. And that affects my relationship with my child because I'm in a good mood. When I go
Mhm.
home to my wife, how's your day? Great. I'm happy. I don't, my environment in the world that I've created is a very positive, healthy lifestyle mindset. And it's what I mean, again, it's what I've loved. And I did what most people don't do. I picked something that I loved and I stuck to it. I also said, what are my options? I either succeed in my business
Mhm.
or I go back to washing toilets. Succeeding, starting a business from scratch, and I didn't have anybody helping me. Nobody gave me money. I started with a duffel bag, 2 pads, a TRX. It was a $300 investment. I didn't even have a gym. I would go to people's homes. And you
Yeah,
want to hear what funny story? When I got my first clients in Westmount, I used
yeah,
to go $1 million homes. I used to drive a $2,000 car. And so they don't see my car. I wouldn't park it in their driveway. I would park it a block away and walk to their house because I didn't want them to think I was a broke ass trainer.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the sacrifice I did to build my business was, most people probably would have dropped out at year 2 or 5. I used to charge people $20 to train me, so I can train them. So the
Okay,
amount of sacrifice that went is unbelievable.
so let's talk about that, okay? Because it's kind of a popular thing to say, "Hey, you're an entrepreneur. Hey, you can start your own thing. Hey, the world is infinite, you can do whatever you want." It's like, okay, but once you start a mission and you start climbing a mountain. And a lot of people ask me, and this is my next question, about the imposter syndrome. You start something and you're not getting paid much, you don't have much clients, you don't have much recognition. People that are already succeeding in that area say, like, you're not a real one, you're not part of this, what are you talking about? So you can't race. How do you deal with, as we call, humble beginnings for everyone that is starting a career, a new project? How do you stick to that with your $300 investment, and you don't have much clients, you don't have much money? How did you manage this? How did you not give up or screw this up, as you say?
Because there was a lot of stakes on the table. I go, okay, what kind of life do I want to give myself? What kind of life do I want to give my son? Do I want to struggle financially? If I went back to what I had, I would have struggled, but I would have had a secure job.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I want a better life for me. Right. So, as well as, I didn't think so much of how much money I was going to make, I was focusing more on the day to day, what I had to do, also what my passion was. And I believed in myself enough to say, okay, it's going to take time, but I'm going to stick to it. And I kind of, it was also, failure was not an option. So that's something today that I live by. Failure is not an option. I'm going to do this until it's done. I will not stop. I will not quit. I will not give up. It's not, am I going to do it? It's already been done. I just have to get there. That's how I think for everything now. It's
Okay.
already been done. I just got to figure out how to get there. It's like a GPS, right? You're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
get, there's a few streets are blocked. I'm always going to find the way. And that was really my mindset. And it's
Okay.
interesting because after that, everything else I did was based on that formula. And then you build your confidence. You're like, okay, if I did this, let me try this and use, now I understand the formula that it takes to create something from scratch. And I
Okay.
built a
So
confidence for it.
so two things, okay? And I want to be precise on this. So the first thing is that you now developed a way to think that, um, what you want, it's already there.
Yeah.
It's finished. We don't ever think about it again.
Zero.
The only thing we think about is how to move towards this direction every day. That's it. It's
100%.
not, it's only how. The
It's
the
only
only
how.
question left is how. The rest, we don't. You don't play around with. Oh, is it good? Is it bad? Can I? Can you don't play with that anymore?
Zero. That doesn't exist in my language anymore. It's
Okay.
done. I'm gonna figure it out how.
All right. All right. So the decision is taken,
Take
and
it.
after you start working.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
go all in. You don't, I tell people if you go in with one foot in, one foot out, you're going to get those results. So you got
Okay.
to be sure and clear, and then you
Mhm.
got to go all in, or else don't waste your time.
Okay. Okay. Good. So I'm sure that's it's gonna help a lot of people. The other thing, while you're doing this, suppose we do this, okay? You try to do something, people look at you, and now there's social media. So you have a constant self evaluating system
Oh, yeah.
that ranks you in order in your face in real time all the time.
Yeah.
So you cannot even focus like before, like 20 years ago. You can just go in your bubble and do something, and it helps focusing, okay? Um, now, now there is a constant reminder of the social hierarchy where you are on a virtual world.
Yeah.
So, how do you deal with the fact that sometimes because there are thoughts going, in and out, like I don't feel good enough, or, oh my God, I don't want to be bad, maybe I don't have what it takes. These thoughts are happening. Okay, how did you learn to manage them before social media and after? Let's get into the impact of social media and how you handle that.
So when I started my YouTube channel, which was almost 12 or 13 years ago,
Yeah.
it was still new.
Yeah.
So people were bashing me, right? But
Really.
yeah, like I mean, I gotta say 90% of my comments and my I have 90% like and maybe a
Yeah.
10% dislike.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was like, oh, what is he saying? And I would argue with them and I would try to like prove myself I'm good. With time, I realized, okay, I'm spending a lot of energy to argue with somebody across the world sitting on a computer, judging me based on what?
Yeah.
How much of what he's saying actually matters and is true? And with time, I built my confidence as well to be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm pretty good at what I do, to the point that um, I stopped caring about it. I stopped. I still read what people think. If you give me a constructive comment, I'm going to answer it. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, if somebody says this sucks, I tell them what part, all of it. I go, the entire video sucks. Yeah. So it's like you're always going to have somebody who's going to not like what you do, who's not going to agree with you, who's going to think you suck, you shit, you're not good enough, you're embarrassing yourself. And I
Yeah.
tell people, if you're not ready for this, don't go on social media. You got to
Yeah.
get to the point, and I had this thing with my son because I learned a lot. My son's he's 17 now, and
Yeah.
telling him advice, I'm learning things that I have to sometimes go back to and things that I live. And I
Yeah.
told him, I go, no, if you're not ready to be yelled at, made fun of, ashamed of, that's one of the first things you need to break yourself free. What other people think is none of your business. Knock yourself out. Say whatever you want. However, don't get in my way.
Yeah.
Don't stand in my way of my goal because then it's a problem. But as long as you're in the outskirts and yelling, screaming, making fun of me, knock yourself out. I don't even bother anymore.
So was it hard when you started on social media how did you adjust to this thought, like, okay, I cannot care about these things? Like, what's the adaptation of all this attention that kept growing over time?
I think there's stages, right? At the first, you're like, you wanna answer everybody,
Yeah.
you wanna like defend yourself, and then you catch yourself spend an hour arguing with somebody that you're never gonna change his mind of what he thinks about you.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just gonna keep bashing you, and the more you go, and it's like, okay, I just spent an hour wasting my time.
Yeah.
Then it went to the point where I was like, I would read the message and be like, okay, I would write a comment. He wrote, I'm like, ah. Now I read the comments, I'm like, and sometimes I don't even read them. I just don't bother. And the people, I focus on the people who like what I do and want to follow me than the
Yeah.
people who just want to, sit and bash me, make fun of me. And again, you got to get to the point where you just don't care. And
Yeah.
then you're free. Once you don't care what people think about what you're doing, you are the freest man. You live life under your terms. And I told my son, you need to get to that point. You're 17, you're still not there, but you got to get to that point in your life. And then you become you become fearless, because so much of what we do is based on what are people going to think? What are we going to say? What if I fail and he sees me? What is he going to say? How is he going to judge me? All these voices, most of the time, are keeping you back from really doing what you want to do.
Mm. So when it started to grow your following and your success online, were you surprised? How did you react to this growth, to this positive attention, like so many followers? Um, do you feel like, yeah, finally I've succeeded something? You know, you were talking to me today about, hey, do not screw up, do not screw up.
Yeah.
Did you show up in the mirror saying like, okay, good job? Were there a time where you said, okay, I think I can be proud of myself now?
Yeah, you know what? It was. I could tell you, I'm going to be 49. I could tell you between 20 and 30, I was like a tornado.
Yeah.
30 and 40, I was starting to figure myself out, put the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
40 to 50 have been my best years, my most peaceful years, the years where I'm like, hey, shit, Nick, you did it. Like, damn, like, you're 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 good at this. Like, you're better than what you thought you would be. You surpassed everyone's expectations, even my own.
Yeah.
I never expected this to turn out the way it was going to turn out. I was expecting to have a little gym, do a couple of sessions, but I built, and it's not about, I built more than what
Yeah.
I could have uh, anticipated. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
um, I can't say what company, but I'm flying to LA for the third year, and I'm working with a company, and I'm sitting with the CEO, and I'm on stage talking in front of 1,100 people and doing their instructional videos and safety videos for the entire company with over 20,000 employees with my brand, and I'm teaching them how to stay safe. And I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And being able to, to make a living more than, again, that I could have ever thought to actually be paid when I started this.
Yeah.
So it transformed into so many ways, and I think that's because I always showed up. I always
Yeah.
showed up. I was always consistent, and I stayed true to what I love to do. I never, ever, ever chased money. Never. I only do things I'm passionate, I love, and things I want to do, or else I would go back and do what I used to do. But I don't want that. And until today, at 50 years old, that's how I live my life.
Mm. So would you say that, one of the most consistent thing in your life was your passion for martial arts, self-defense, staying in shape? It was kind of your rock, and you stick to that. You came back to this all the time, and you reinvested around something that is extremely solid, these passions.
It was what I loved the most, and what I it gave me the most peace. Right? I was always in my peaceful element. And also, it made me feel good to know that I'm helping people.
Hmm.
I've had people send me emails like, "Oh, I got attacked, and because of your video, it saved my life. I used a person that tried to attack me in Brazil. He had a knife. I trapped the knife. I just remember trapping. I started hitting, and I was yelling because I saw your video. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm making a difference when I'm teaching women self-defense.
Yeah.
I'm giving back, and that's the core foundation. You know what I mean? It's I tell people there's only so much I can take in, but it's really, what are
Mm.
you giving back, and how are you helping, and how are you serving people? And I feel like I'm able to do something I love. I'm able to have a living, because at the end, it's also part of life. But in all of that process, I'm also giving back. And,
Yeah.
and I'm able to take all my experience and help other people.
Time is flying by, but if I may, I have a couple of other questions. Do you have some minute left?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I have like plenty of time.
Okay. Um, most people do not have passion. Okay, most people, they don't know what they like. Okay, but because I think it's really important. for people watching that it's like one of the crucial element to get out of misery. You need some kind of a rock, and some kind of a rock is kind of what you like, and you invest on what you like. Most people, for all kinds of reasons, they don't have the opportunity to develop or find passions or what they like. So imagine a version of yourself but without this passion. It's like you're gonna keep going down because
Yeah.
there is no bottom. There is nothing that you can hang on to. So what would be your, because you're coaching people, right? So
Yeah.
when you coach people, people talk to you, and I know you're very friendly guy, so you don't say like, hey, okay, let's go, let's fight. You talk, how are you, what's
Yeah.
going on, there's a discussion, with a
It's part
client,
of the
so people talk
process.
to you. Yeah. um, so what have you noticed about the presence or the impact of the absence of passion? You have a lot of clients, that are theoretically very successful, but starts to feel empty after a while
Yeah.
because there's something. Can you talk to me about the importance of finding your passion?
So I always go back when people
Yeah,
ask me, oh, I don't have a passion. I go, when you were a kid, what did you play with?
yeah,
What did you love doing when you were a kid? What did you imagine? What did you play with? It's funny because I was at a birthday party a couple of months ago, and there was like 3-year-old, and he's dressed as a fireman. And the kid was so intense. I'm like, chances of this kid becoming a fireman are probably pretty high. Maybe not as a kid, but he was so passionate about that. Like he was so into it. He was running and turning on fires. I always say, go
yeah,
back to what you love. Like I'm starting my acting career at 47. People tell me, what are you crazy? Aren't you too old to be an actor? This and that. I don't care. I'm starting it. I became full actor. I got my credits. I'm gonna be in a feature film that's coming out soon. I'm writing, I'm directing, I'm producing my own like little skits, and it was something that I loved as a child. So I always
yeah,
tell people, go back to when you were a child. And what happens, I think, if you are in the immigrant type of mindset or like that type of family, as you become a lawyer, doctor, engineer, there's a set of
yeah, yeah,
that are considered as worth like high valued, and a lot of times the parents who are selfish because it gives a representation. Oh, my son's a doctor, my son's an
yeah,
engineer, and they put this pressure on their child. And I had a client of mine, he was a very big contractor, and he was depressed, he wasn't happy, he hated what he did. And I'm like, but I'm like, well, what did you love doing? He goes, I wanted to be a painter. So I go, why aren't you painting? It's like, well, now it's too late. What am I going to do? Become a painter? Paint on the side. Do it for fun. Start with that. Go, like same thing. I spoke to another person. He was a lawyer. He hated his job. He did it because he wanted to make his parents happy because his parents wanted him to be a lawyer, right? But his dream was to be like a writer. He loved theater. He loved acting. That's what he loved doing.
yeah,
And I think what happens is we all have these passions, but as we get older, society, pressure, parents, friends come in and kind of inject thoughts and ideas in our head of like, well, how are you going to make a living out of this? How are you going to become successful? What are people going to think and say if you're going to be an actor or a writer or you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
certain jobs that people might not
yeah,
see as valuable as others.
yeah. And okay, so passion, I completely agree with you. It's like you need that in your life. If you don't have it, start small.
Start
Okay,
small.
that's another thing. People, they are very harsh on themselves because it's like, if I get into something, it has to be big, it has to be glorious. I have to be
No.
successful, but it normally doesn't work like that. Normally, you have to start small and you have to do it because you like it. And yes, you need food on the table, you need to pay your bills, and you need to work, but it doesn't mean that you cannot allow yourself to do other things to fuel some passion, and you don't know where it's going to lead. That's the thing. You don't know the future exactly. So you have to stay open, but you need some space to inject some passion somewhere.
Yeah.
Otherwise, life will be very difficult because even though you're making a good living on something, you're going to hit a wall and there's going to be a hard phase. Like how are you going to get out of this phase? So passion is really important. And thanks for bringing it up. The other thing, what would be your recommendation for when you're going, when you're in a low, in a, it's not going well, it's a difficult phase. Like, what would be, with all your experience, what's the strategy? What's the plan to get out of this?
Um, One is break down what got you there and what is
Okay.
actually happening. And I'm like, forget about what if, but if, like all those what, but if, get all those out of your head, all the
Yeah.
different type of scenarios that don't exist and exist in your head. Write down, okay, what happened for me to get there? Where am I there right now? Okay, the situation right now is I'm getting divorced. I got to pay the lawyer. I got to keep my house. I'm going to have my son on the weekends. I got to figure out to drive. I'm going to change my pop, 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 pop. Okay,
So
put
facts. You put
facts.
facts.
Nothing. What if? But if this happens, this is all in the. I call it the
Okay.
cloud. It's not real,
Yeah.
and a lot of
Okay.
people take this and make it real. It's not.
Okay.
That's what I do. From there, I'm
Okay.
like, okay, what do I need to do to get myself out of this? And I'll break it
Yeah.
down in steps. Problem with
Yeah.
most people I meet, they want the big leap.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Everybody wants the big leap. They want it now. And one thing I
Yeah.
learned over my years, things take time.
Yeah.
And you got to have a plan, be like, okay. And you got to start with the small steps and be like, okay, you write down the whole plan. And if you have to say, okay, this week I got to do this. Second week I got to do. Third week I got to work on this. Fourth week I got to work on that. 5 week. If you look at my house upstairs, I have my schedule is all planned for the month. On Sunday I look at my week. I don't wake up in the morning and be like, oh, what am I doing today? Everything, every minute is scheduled and planned, and everything has a structure to it.
Yeah.
That takes off the anxiety of me trying to figure out, well, what's going to happen? How am I going to do this? Oh, am I just dreaming? No, I have a plan. I have a
Hmm.
plan, and
Hmm.
I'm going to execute the steps with the knowledge and the knowing that things are not going to go as planned, and it's
Yeah.
okay, and I'll be able to maneuver around any situation.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that takes off all the anxiety and the what ifs, but the buts that people will throw at you and you're going to throw at yourself.
When did you learn to make plans and to be structured like that? But because what you're describing, personality wise, psychologically wise, it's a total different kind of brain that you're exhibiting right now than the 16, 20-year-old guy, very impulsive, disorganized, not very conscientious. Like, it's like it's
Yeah.
two different Nick. How did you manage to improve your planification and also, I would say, discipline, which comes with an agenda and a strategy?
So I think one of them, the discipline came a little bit more from the martial arts and the training,
Oh,
right? Like a little bit of the core. But I
yeah.
think that it started, and again, people who want to do leaps start by saying, you know what? I'm going to schedule my week. One thing every day, just one thing. Today, I'm going to go to the gym. I train from 2 to 4 p.m., 2 to 3. That's my gym time. Right? Okay, the next thing, I'm going to work at the hospital from 7 to 3:30 when I used to work. On my lunch break, I'm not going to eat lunch. I'm going to work on my business every day 1 hour. Just do that. One, two things. Better being slow and steady and consistent than going whoop, because most people do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working on my movie. I work on my movie on Tuesdays from 4 to 7 p.m. It's on the board. It's squared, it's written, right? It might change, but most of the time, this is when I'm working. So I allocate my time because I'm turning 50. And it's kind of sad. I was telling my wife because I got maybe 30 years left.
Hmm.
It's sad because I'm like, I got 30 years, and I'm living my best years. I'm like, I wish I could go back in time and live them the way like I
Yeah.
am now. But thank
Yeah.
God, because I didn't have a great start, but I feel like I'm having an amazing, awesome finish. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I got 30 years. How do I want to live them? And you have to be aware and conscious that the time is running out. It's ticking, no matter what. You can't stop it. You can't rewind it. You can't pause it. So how do I want to live my life? And how do I want to structure it? And I have to be efficient with my time. So I pick and choose a lot more. Every decision
Mhm.
I make, who do
Yeah.
I spend time with? Everything I want to do is thought out. I don't waste my time anymore. And that
Yeah.
also helps me not wasting time with people that are toxic, or people that are negative, or people who talk bad about me, or people do. I don't care. I wish them the best, just from a distance.
Mm. And now, where do you feel that you're at in life? In what phase of life are you right now? And what kind of future are you creating, working on right now? How do you deal with this kind of peace, as you said, this success, this peace, this fun, the consciousness that the awareness that time is flying by and it's like this is how it works? And how would you describe the phase that you're in?
I'm going to tell you something, Guillaume. Maybe you can help me. I was with my wife, and after my divorce, I stayed single for 15 years. I was in one bad relationship after another, because I was always in toxic relationships, because I always almost were in relationships. I would get into relationships almost like my mom. Even with all the work I've done, I was always in toxic relationships.
Mhm.
And probably the biggest factor in my life is my wife. And I'm so blessed. I recently got married, and my wife is an unbelievable, kind person. It's 5 years we're together. We just got married, and our life is so peaceful. So peaceful. She's a kind person, caring, and I have an amazing relationship with my wife, an amazing relationship with my son. My social life, the people that I love are close to me. The rest, I just keep them at a distance. I wake up every day. I love what I do. I'm pursuing new dreams, acting, writing. Even though I was told I was too old, what am I doing? What do you know about writing, acting? I don't care. I go out and I do it. And my only fear, Guillaume, and maybe you can help me, and I said this
Mm.
to my wife, sometimes I feel that I almost feel like the ball is going to drop. Like, my life story shouldn't be ending like this.
Mm.
I live sometimes in a fear that something bad's going to happen. I told her, we
Mhm.
were we were in Greece, and I was like, I feel like something bad's going to happen. Like, we're going to get
Mhm.
into an accident, because
Yeah.
my story has always been chaotic, and for the first time it's peaceful, to the point that I'm almost afraid
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
damage something, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's almost like unreal, and I'm living with that fear now. So I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe you can help me. I'm always
Ugh.
learning. I can't seem to figure it out. It's almost
Mm.
like I don't deserve it. That's part of it. I feel like I don't deserve this life,
Yeah.
because the story of Nick Drossos shouldn't be ending like this. So I live sometimes with that anxiety, like something
Yeah.
bad gonna happen, something bad gonna happen.
Well, I, I don't know if I can explain or help you, but what I can tell you by experience is that people that have suffered more early on in their lives, when they get out of it, it's almost like a miracle, and it's like they have built resilience. They have learned how to handle pain, and when they don't have pain, it's like where's the catch? It's theoretically not possible.
Yeah,
What's the catch?
yeah.
So it's like people are super grateful, exactly what you say.
Grateful
You
every
know, they're
day, every
grateful,
day.
but it's like I'm grateful, but I know that there's supposed to be a catch. There's always been a
Yeah,
catch. So if the catch is not now, it means it's going to hit harder later. So I'm not sure if I want to hit a wall right now, or I prefer to believe that it's going to be okay and wait longer. So um, I would say what you're displaying is this typical post painful life mixed with the consciousness of gratitude, consciousness of success, that it's not easy. This general awareness that everything is hanging by a thread
yeah,
keeps you very humble, and in contact with pain, death, misery. It's never far.
yeah.
um does it make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And again, we talked about it with my wife, because we have such good communication, and I talk to her about everything. I could talk to her
Yeah.
about my all my fears, and it's not going to be like thrown back or anything like
Yeah.
that. And it's interesting because she had such a different life than me, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
and our worlds are two opposite worlds that come together, and sometimes it's like I like, again, I have that fear, and she's like, I also can't live like that and be in that constant, I can't always be waiting, because I also don't want to attract it.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah,
also don't want to be something that have something that happen, and then you're like, oh, I knew it, it's validated, I knew something
yeah.
was going to happen.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right, so that's my fear. So I'm like, every time I get that thought, I say, shake it off. That's my
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
shake it
yeah,
off. That's my thing,
yeah,
shake it off. And I just,
yeah,
it's just a thought.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something that you can resolve completely. I think it's something you need to live with, at the phase that you're at. Like if you're successful, you need to live with success and this gratitude. And for some people they say, oh wow, big deal, you need to live with your success. For you, well, it's not a complaint, it's just the awareness that success is not taken for granted.
Yeah,
Have if you have worked all your life for it, and you have a good moment, that it's not a coincidence. You have to build it, and all these parts are sensitive, and not all these parts are controllable. So you work hard to put them all together, but it doesn't mean that they will stick all the time.
yeah,
So there is, I I would say, the reward. Okay, the positive part of this is the the easier access to gratitude. Okay, because when you're not afraid to lose anything, it's just for granted. It's a normal. So if
yes,
it's normal, if your brain feels that what you're having, whatever success it is normal, it has not much value, and that's the problem for highly successful people that are extremely talented or lucky, had opportunities, they're bright, they have some success, but there is not much pain at the back of it. So it's their success is not worth that much.
mm,
So they cannot have this fear of losing it because it's not worth that much. So the more you value things,
yeah,
the more you're scared to drop it. But I mean, that's the twist. It's like, which life do you want? Do you want to have the easier success, and you're not even afraid to lose anything,
yeah, good
but
point.
you don't feel much meaning, and
Yeah,
you don't feel the reward?
yeah,
Or the other life, that you have worked a lot, and the success that you have, you're fully proud and grateful for it, but it
yes,
comes at a price. You're aware that it's not forever. So I don't know, but I have a bias towards the second
yeah,
option. Yeah, to
yeah, for
me.
sure. And I think what I would just like to tell the viewers is that a lot of times people measure success either by money or how big they're going to do, or
Yeah,
how it could be something really small. You could
yeah,
you could have a job where you're making, I don't know, $50,000 a year doing something you hate, and open your own little business and make $50,000 and do what you love. Guess what? You're up one in the game.
yeah, yeah,
That's a win. Take it. You're up one in the game. So
yeah,
it's never, you know what I mean? Especially with the social media, we see, I'm an entrepreneur. The guy's driving his car and his plane, and people get intimidated by that. And most of it
yeah,
sometimes is fake. So I
yeah,
tell people, you can't look at that. Just focus on what you need to do.
yeah, yeah, and like what you're talking about is basically meaning. You know,
Meaning.
meaning is not an external reward. It cannot be generated by any external factor. So it's like, yeah, success can be measured by all kinds of external criteria, and it's fine. It's okay. I mean, there's nothing about fame or money or whatever qua social hierarchy, but without meaning, you're always going to lose at the
Good
end.
point. Good
Without
point.
meaning, it's really tough to go through pain and misery and suffering and breakups and sickness and all these things. Without meaning, it's really tough.
Absolutely right.
So I would say that meaning is definitely something to think about, to prioritize, and try to conciliate with, business, um, financials, and all that stuff. But meaning at the base of it, it's quite important for having the feeling that your life has some kind of satisfaction, because at a certain point you will not be able to move, and you will be aware of it, and you're going to say, like, I cannot do whatever I want with my body. And at this point you will have to look back and say, hey, did you do the best you could So this is the question that you're going to ask yourself, and the answer will never be like, yes, I had this kind of recognition, or I had this amount of money. It's who you met, what were your relationships, what was fun, what was your best memories. And I don't I'm really not against capitalism and all that stuff. It's not about that. It's just that there is something like meaning that keeps you going, and that you're an example of that,
Thank you.
definitely. And you're the one of the happiest and positive person I've ever met. Since when I know I met you, I didn't know what was going on in your life, in your background, but you always like irradiates this positivity, this goal oriented behavior, this hardworking vibe, and it's just incredible. And thanks for sharing your story, man. It's really
My
appreciated. It's
my
great.
pleasure, Guillaume. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this interview so much, and I was honored that you took the time to do this interview with me.
Thanks so much, man. Best of luck. Have fun. Have fun in your acting career, teaching
Yes.
videos. It helps a lot of people. You inspire a lot of people, and myself. And yeah, I think a lot of people can learn out of this. There you have good moments, you have lows. There are all kinds of strategies that we've talked about. And even if people start, with a few strikes in life, it doesn't mean you cannot flip
Yeah.
things around. And this is really important to break this helplessness cycle. So thanks a lot for this light today, Nick.
I just want to say one thing before I close,
Sure.
because one of my driving forces, I always say, when I'm old, lying in my deathbed, I want to check every box. I never want to say, I regret, I didn't, I should have, I could have. That
Yeah.
is one thing that I refuse to live by.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're taking the action every day to make
Yeah.
sure that you're doing the best you can. Thanks a lot, Nick,
Awesome.
and
Bye,
gives me
guys.
the energy to keep working on my own projects and my own things. Thanks a lot, and talk to you
Awesome,
soon, man.
yo. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.